After 5 long years of heartbreak, she discovered an unexpected love from the most desired Duke. Emily Thompson had always kept her distance from grandeur. As the widow of a soldier, life had buried her with responsibilities, love, and loss. The quaint town of Cedar Grove embraced her bakery, woven into the town's heartbeat as much as her daughter, Lily, brightened her days. But that summer, whispers of the upcoming charity gala shimmered through the air, sending ripples of tension home in her chest. Duke Alexander Sinclair was coming, and with him a frenzy of expectations. Excited, Lily tugged at Emily's sleeve, her bright eyes wide like saucers. "Mom, you have to come with me. It'll be magical." The girl's innocent enthusiasm pulled at Emily's heartstrings, filling her with a warmth that mingled with anxiety. Could she step into a world sparkling with diamonds and ties to nobility? She buried the thought under a smile, nodding like a good sport. They arrived at the grand venue that glimmered under the evening sky, and the sight stole Emily's breath. Beautiful chandeliers dangled like stars, casting soft hues over informal conversations and charity efforts. All around her, elegant gowns floated, and laughter wove an ethereal atmosphere. "Move forward, Emily," she chided her reflection in the glass window, but the whispers behind her back loomed like dark clouds. "She's just from that bakery," they would say. Her heart raced when she unexpectedly found herself in proximity to the Duke. He was unlike anyone she'd met before, tall, with piercing blue eyes and an effortless air that made people lean in closer. As their connection sparked from polite conversation to deeper discussions, Emily felt her heart begin to thaw. His tales of family and strength resonated, and she found herself appreciating him beyond status. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as their friendship blossomed, that nagging worry crawled back, doubt, ignited by whispers of jealousy and resentment within the community. The closer she got to Alexander, the more she heard them grumble about her knowing her place. What did they know of heartache? Of resilience? Then it happened. Amidst a charity outreach gone wrong, tensions flared when an accusation erupted. Former friends turned away, their voices sharp daggers targeting her vulnerability. The chaos washed over her like a rogue wave, and she stood frozen, faced with two choices: remain loyal to those she had grown up with, or risk it all for a future that glimmered with possibility. Lily clutched her hand tightly, her small fingers digging in as fear washed over them both. Emily's head spun. Who was she in this moment? Would love be worth the judgment she would face from a town that saw beyond her? Standing at that crucial crossroad, the air thick with uncertainty, Cedar Grove was about to change forever, the stakes higher than ever. Emily had to choose what kind of life did she want to write for herself and her daughter. The moments that followed felt like an eternity for Emily. She watched as familiar faces turned cold, their laughter now tinged with disdain. Would she really stay tied to the hurtful gossip, or was it time to forge a new path, a life that lit her heart? "Mom." Lily's voice broke through the murmur of judgment. "Are you okay?" The innocence in her daughter's eyes wrapped around Emily like a warm blanket. Emily knelt beside Lily, forcing a smile despite the turmoil. "Of course, sweet pea. Just a little overwhelmed." Her heart ached as she gently stroked Lily's hair, feeling the weight of the world bearing down on her. She looked back at the Duke, who remained steadfast in the storm raging around them. There was warmth in his gaze that soothed her. "Do you wish to leave?" he asked, his voice a quiet comfort amidst the chaos. "No," Emily whispered, surprising herself. Facing the whispers was part of her journey now. Every fiber in her being urged her to step forward, to claim the happiness she had watched slip away for too long. For Lily, she needed this. "Then let us stand together," Alexander replied, offering her his arm. The small gesture ignited something within Emily. It was a choice, one she didn't know she had the strength to make until that moment. As they navigated through the crowd, Alexander spoke of his intentions for the charity, how the gala was meant to uplift and unite the community. His conviction was palpable, and Emily felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Perhaps this was exactly what Cedar Grove needed, but even as she fought against doubt, a sharp voice cut through. "Look who thinks she is too good for us now." A woman scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly. Other heads nodded in agreement, their sneers like arrows aimed straight for Emily's heart. She hesitated, the words wrapping around her like chains, but she straightened up. "I may not belong to your world, but that doesn't mean I'll hide," she responded, her voice steady, gaining momentum. "We are all capable of lifting each other up, regardless of our pasts." Lily's eyes shone with pride, and Emily's heart swelled in that moment. For the first time in years, she felt like she was finally stepping into her own power. Suddenly, a hand rested on her shoulder, and she turned to see the Duke. "You spoke beautifully," he said, admiration dancing in his eyes. But before they could share another moment, a loud gasp rang through the crowd. A familiar figure emerged, one that made Emily's stomach drop. It was Margaret, her childhood friend turned opponent, determination evident in her stride. "Do you think you can just walk into our lives as if nothing happened?" Margaret's voice rang like a bell, silencing the crowd. "You were never meant to be in a world like this." Emily's heart raced. Was this confrontation part of the challenge she had to face? The anger pooling inside her tugged at her instincts, urging her to fight. "I'm not here to take anything from you," she shot back. "I'm merely looking for a place to belong, just as we all are." The tension in the air was thick, pregnant with both fear and possibility. What would Margaret do next? As Emily looked around, she saw that eyes were on her, waiting, expecting, desperate for a spectacle. Would she sink or swim? Lily squeezed her hand tighter, mirroring Emily's rising anxiety. This moment felt like a turning point, one that could alter the course of their lives forever. The question echoed behind her heart. Could love truly conquer all, even the deepest-seated animosities? "Today," Emily said, gathering strength, "marks a new beginning. For all of us." But as the crowd erupted into whispers, uncertainty loomed heavy. Did they even want a new beginning? Would they accept her? Emily's heart pounded as she braced herself for whatever would come next. In the silence that followed, she couldn't shake off the feeling the storm was not yet over. And somewhere, in the shadows, a storm was brewing, one that would test her resolve like never before. Emily stood there, the weight of Margaret's presence pressing down on her like a leaden blanket. The crowd vibrated with anticipation, their murmurs rising and falling like the tide, a mix of envy and curiosity. Emily felt Lily's small hand, a reassuring anchor amidst the swirling chaos. Margaret stepped closer, her eyes cold and fierce. "You think you can just make this all disappear? That you can reinvent yourself without consequences?" she taunted, folding her arms tighter across her chest. Emily took a shaky breath, recalling their carefree days as children. "We all make mistakes, Margaret. We grow, we change life isn't static. It's about moving forward," she replied, each word gaining strength. "Move forward?" Margaret laughed, a bitter sound that sliced through the air. "You think you can step back into our lives when you swanned off on your own little vacation for 5 years? You think we've forgotten? Maybe that's the problem," Emily said, her voice rising with conviction. "Maybe you're the ones who can't see beyond the past." Gasps erupted in the crowd, and Emily's heart raced. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her: fear, bravery, determination. She could sense the shift in the atmosphere, the potential for change sparking in the air. Lily, sensing her mother's turmoil, whispered, "Mom, I believe in you." Those words landed like a lifebuoy thrown into turbulent waters. Emily looked down at her daughter, whose small face radiated support. That was all she needed. One person to believe in her. "Listen," Emily called out to the crowd, gathering her courage like a shield. "Each of us carries our own stories, ones filled with mistakes and triumphs. I'm here to make amends, not to fight." Margaret scoffed, but Emily continued, undeterred. "We can create something beautiful together. We can help each other grow rather than tear each other down." In that breath, Emily felt the breath of the crowd shift. They were intrigued. Some faces softened, a spark of recognition dawning in their eyes. Holding tight to Lily's hand, she prayed for understanding to bloom among the audience. "Why should we trust you?" someone in the back shouted. Emily looked at the source of the voice. "You shouldn't yet, but I ask you to give me a chance. If I fail, Then I'll walk away, but if I succeed, maybe we can build something great here. The murmurs turned into whispers, and she could see flickers of hope lit in a few faces. But Margaret wasn't done. You think you can just win them over with speeches and pretty words? This is a community built on trust, and you shattered that when you left. Trust isn't built on perfection, Emily countered, feeling the tide shift in her favor. It's built on honesty and vulnerability. I've been broken too. I know how it feels to lose everything, and I don't intend to lose this chance. A silence fell over the crowd. For a moment, time stood still. Then, unexpectedly, the Duke stepped forward, his presence commanding. Emily speaks truth, he said, his deep voice cutting through the tension. This community deserves someone willing to take risks and mend bridges. I believe in her vision. His endorsement shocked everyone, and some gasped, while others turned back, bewildered. Emily felt a swirl of gratitude and disbelief in her chest. Had Alexander truly stepped into this storm beside her? And just as hope began to kindle, Margaret's voice rose again, sharper than before. You think you can play the savior, Alexander? That this is nothing more than a play by the misunderstood caretaker? Something is off, and everyone knows it. The energy changed again, a ripple of doubt creeping back. Emily felt her heart sink slightly. Was this what she would face? Suddenly, a thought hit her like a lightning bolt. The stakes had just grown higher. The battle for acceptance wasn't only about her. It was about the principles they all shared. Then let us talk about that, Margaret, Emily challenged. What would it take for you to trust again? Let us not just stand here and argue. Let us find a way forward together. As Margaret opened her mouth, ready to respond, Emily felt a spark of hope revive within her. She was ready for whatever was next, for the battle, for the acceptance, for the love she hoped to find in this community. But as the crowd simmered, a sudden commotion erupted. An unexpected visitor had arrived, and they whispered about the weight of their arrival. Who could it be? Emily's heart raced yet again. Would this change everything? Or deepen the fractures she so desperately wanted to heal? Emily turned her gaze towards the entrance, her heart pounding like a drum. The crowd parted slightly, revealing a figure who strode in with a quiet confidence. It was Clara, the town's unofficial historian, her presence warm yet commanding. An aura of authority surrounded her, one that was felt even by the most hardened townsfolk. Clara, someone in the crowd exclaimed, voice tinged with surprise. Emily's heart surged with a mix of relief and anxiety. She had not expected to see Clara here. Let her speak, Clara called out, her voice strong, silencing the murmurs. As she moved closer, Emily caught sight of her determined expression, the way she straightened her shoulders to convey a gravity that sent chills down Emily's spine. Clara looked from Emily to Margaret. This community is built on our shared stories, she began, her gaze steady. And Emily is part of that story, whether you like it or not. We've been quick to forget how interconnected we are. Emily's breath caught. Was Clara really defending her? Margaret's eyes narrowed, but Clara continued. You see, we all have chapters in our lives that we aren't proud of, but does that define us forever? Shouldn't we have the opportunity to rewrite our narratives? The crowd seemed to soften at Clara's words, faces turning thoughtful. Emily felt a swell of gratitude. It was as if Clara had breathed life back into her hopes. Yes, someone shouted from the back, bravery lacing their voice. Let us hear more from Emily. We all make mistakes. The atmosphere shifted, becoming lighter, even hopeful. Emily knew this was her moment. She stepped forward, encouraged by Clara's unwavering support. What happened in the past doesn't have to dictate our future. I'm here, ready to listen, to learn, and to grow with you all. Don't let her fool you. Margaret interjected sharply. She shot off to reinvent herself, and now she expects us to welcome her back into our lives with open arms. The crowd stirred again, uncertainty creeping in like shadows. Emily's heart raced. But I'm not asking for blind acceptance, Emily said firmly. I only ask for the chance to show you that I can be better, to work with all of you on rebuilding trust. Clara shot a glance at Margaret. What do you really want, Margaret? To keep this community divided? Or to move forward? At that, Margaret faltered slightly. For the first time since this confrontation had begun, the hard edge on her face wavered, revealing a hint of vulnerability. You think just because you come back and talk nicely, it changes everything? She challenged, Yet her voice lacked its previous force. Emily took a steadying breath. No, I don't. But together we can change the narrative we've written so far. What if we forged a path that allows us to grow? The crowd nodded slowly, some even stepping closer, igniting a sense of camaraderie among them. The air buzzed with the thrill of potential changes, but it was palpable that Margaret's tension remained a barrier. Even if it starts with small steps, isn't that better than remaining stuck in the past? Clara asked gently. In the end, isn't the community worth fighting for? Just then, as hope flared to life like fireworks in the night sky, the ground beneath them suddenly trembled. The sudden noise came from outside, a commotion that sent shockwaves within the crowd. Eyes darted toward the entrance, where even more people gathered. Who else could be coming? Emily held her breath, feeling the weight of dread slip in alongside the hope she had just begun to nurture. And as the murmurs reached a crescendo, a figure emerged from the shadows, casting an unexpected tumult within her heart. Would this arrival push them back into chaos, or could it be another chance for unity? Emily felt her chest tighten. The answer might just change everything she had fought for, or take it all away in an instant. As the crowd shifted restlessly, anxiety pooled in Emily's stomach. The figure stepping into the light was no stranger. It was Gabriel, her childhood friend. She hadn't seen him in years, not since before everything had fallen apart. His hair had grown longer, and there was a weight in his eyes that sent a chill down her spine. Gabriel, she whispered, the name barely escaping her lips. He scanned the crowd, his gaze landing on Emily. A flicker of recognition glimmered in his eyes, but it quickly turned to something more complex: confusion, maybe even hurt. She could feel the air in the tent grow electric, the crowd holding its collective breath, suspended in a moment of uncertainty. Is it really you? Gabriel asked, stepping forward, his voice low yet resonant. The vulnerability in his tone broke through the tension like a warm sunbeam piercing the morning fog. Emily felt a mix of happiness and fear. I didn't expect to see you here. Clearly, he replied, one corner of his mouth lifting in a hesitant smile, but the rest of his face was clouded with doubts that mirrored her own. The underlying concern about what this reunion meant for both of them hung heavily in the air. Margaret, still clutching her stance, eyed Gabriel warily. You should be cautious too, Gabriel. She has been gone a long time. The crowd erupted in whispers, taking sides and fueling the ambience with fears and hopes alike. Yet, at this moment, Emily only had eyes for Gabriel. Margaret's right to be wary, he said, turning his focus back to her. But I'm not here to judge you, Emily. I came back because he paused, emotions reflected in his features. I came back because I still care. And maybe, just maybe, the town needs a fresh start. We all do. It struck her like a lightning bolt. Did he still care? That thread pulled on her heart, awakening buried feelings she thought she had long buried along with her past. Maybe you've all been looking at this the wrong way, Clara interjected, trying to shift the focus. Emily isn't the only one who needs a chance, Gabriel. You've been gone, too. What are you hoping to bring to this new narrative? Gabriel's brow furrowed in thought. I want to remind everyone that we share history not just with Emily, but with each other. We are all part of a bigger picture. The past isn't just a collection of memories. It's what binds us. It's how we move forward together. His words hung in the air like a promise, embedding themselves in the crowd. Emily dared to hope as she looked around. Faces softened, open to the possibility that healing could spread to them all. Yet, Margaret remained unyielding. Easier said than done. You too can share your dreams, but trust isn't built in a day. It takes actions, not just words. The crowd shifted again, the energy ebbing and flowing like tide pools in a restless sea. What are you suggesting, Margaret? Clara countered, eyes narrowing slightly. That we stay miserable forever? Emily felt her heart race, every pulse a reminder of their collective heartbreak. We can start today, she declared, her voice steadying. Each of us taking steps to be better. Let us start small, rebuild as a community. Together. Gabriel stepped closer to her, a protective warmth radiating from him. I want to be part of that. I want us to work together. Unresolved issues didn't vanish when we left, but I truly believe in the possibility of healing. As the whispers faded into thoughtful silence, Emily blended her gaze with Gabriel's. For the first time, it seemed possible. But a shadow loomed. Time was running out, and not everyone was prepared to start anew. Will we unite in the face of our uncertainties? She finally asked, her voice soft but firm. And just as the crowd contemplated this question, a thunderous noise echoed from outside, creating a sense of urgency that swallowed the hope blooming within her. What awaited them beyond the entrance? Would it be the catalyst they needed, or would it plunge them back into despair? The noise grew louder, a hard thud followed by a series of smaller sounds that echoed through the tent like gunshots in the stillness. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. She stepped forward, squinting to see through the entrance flap, but the light outside was too bright. "Stay back," shouted Margaret, her voice cutting through the chaos. The crowd shifted nervously, inching towards the sides of the tent. "Gabriel, what is happening?" Emily reached for his hand, needing his presence to anchor her. "I don't know," he replied, his expression shifting from concern to determination. "But we need to find out." With one swift motion, Gabriel pushed through the crowd, and Emily followed closely behind. The tension in the air crackled like static. As they stepped outside, the sight before them transformed dread into something almost unimaginable. A large group of people was gathered near the edge of the town, their faces pale, voices rising in panic. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. The scene unfolded as if pulled from a nightmare. A significant portion of the town's South Main Street lay in ruins, splintered wood and debris scattered everywhere. "What happened?" Clara shouted, pushing her way to the front as others murmured in disbelief. "An explosion," a man yelled, his tone laced with fear. "At the old mill. We need help." The words hung in the air, a heavy weight that settled on Emily's chest. Memories of laughter, carefree days spent by the creek, and endless summers flooded back. The mill was a part of their childhood, a place of dreams. To see it destroyed, the collective gasp that echoed through the town brought her back to the present. "People need us," Gabriel said, urgency shining in his eyes. "We can't just stand here. We need to organize a response team." Emily could hardly breathe, her throat tight. "But how can we? Where do we even start? We have to act. Those who stand back risk losing everything," he urged. His words rang in her ears, igniting a flicker of bravery deep within her. As the crowd buzzed around them, she could hear fragmented conversations. Some were discussing the needs of the injured, others the supplies required. Swallowing her fear, she raised her voice. "We have to work together. Everyone, listen to me." The crowd quieted, eyes turning to Emily. She stood taller, heart racing. "We may have our differences, but this is our town. If we come together, we can help those trapped inside the rubble. We're all in this together." A ripple of resolve spread through the crowd as people nodded, their expressions shifting from panic to purpose. Gabriel caught her eye, a spark of admiration swirling in his gaze. "We need a group to start clearing the debris," he called out, pointing towards the fallen remains. "We also need first aid kits. Does anyone have supplies?" Tension faded slightly as hands began to rise, voices joining in, suggesting plans, and forming small teams. Emily felt strength swell in her chest. Perhaps this was what they had been missing. Togetherness, forging ahead amidst chaos. "Let us go," Gabriel shouted, his passion infectious. They bounded into action, adrenaline churning in Emily's veins. With every step towards the wreckage, she realized how much she had held back, how the fear of the past had kept her from truly engaging with the world, and maybe, just maybe, this moment could be a redemptive one. But as they began to lift the first pieces, uncertainty filled her mind. Could this be the stepping stone to rebuild their community? Just then, a piercing scream erupted from the crowd, freezing Emily in her tracks. "What now?" she gasped, dread creeping in again. The answer was terrifying, and the full weight of what lay ahead began to settle in. Would they be able to come out of this alive? Would it heal their wounds or deepen them? The only certainty was that everything was about to change. Emily's heart raced as she turned towards the source of the scream. Panic twisted in her stomach like a tight knot. The crowd shifted like a turbulent sea, everyone moving to get a clearer view. And there she saw it, a woman crumpled on the ground, her hands covering her face, sobbing uncontrollably. "Maureen!" Clara dashed forward, her voice barely rising above the rising waves of concern. "What happened?" The commotion partially parted as Clara reached Maureen, kneeling beside her, trying to comfort her. Emily's mind raced, an instinctive urge to help surging through her veins. "I lost my son," Maureen wailed, her voice raw with pain. "He was in the mill when it exploded." That sentence struck Emily like a physical blow. She felt the air leave her lungs, a warmth pooling in her eyes. She had known Maureen's son, a bright-eyed kid who used to chase them around with wild laughter. The image of his innocent smile crashed over her like a wave. At that moment, Gabriel was at Emily's side, his expression darker than she had ever seen. "We have to find him," he said, resolve hardening in his voice. Emily turned to him, focus sharpening. "Yes, but how? The debris looks unstable. I can't just stand here," he said, steely determination etched across his face. "We need to get a team to look for him. If he is trapped under there, we have to try." Silence enveloped them for a split second before voices erupted once more, urgency and desperation spilling over into frantic shouts. "We need ropes to stabilize the beams. Does anyone have a flashlight? How many people are still missing?" Emily felt that familiar disorientation creep back in, the weight of the moment pulling her down. Would they actually be able to reach him? Would any of them return unscathed? But through the chaos, she steadied herself. They had done the impossible already. Could they do it again? "Follow me," she yelled suddenly, surprising herself with the force of her voice. "If we can get some shovels, we can start clearing the entrance. At least we'll know what we're working with." Without waiting for affirmation, she turned toward the tent where some supplies were stored. Gabriel followed close behind. "We'll need help, Em," he said, keeping pace with her hurried steps. As they moved, she saw people drifting towards them, ready to engage, fueled by panic, but also by the flame of hope. As they rounded the tent, the sight of battered shovels and tools was a beacon amidst the grim reality. Emily started grabbing shovels, passing them quickly to the others. "We need to form a line past the debris down as we clear it." The energy in the air shifted, that spark ignited fire in the crowd. Before she knew it, people were rallying around her, hands were flying, and the line of work formed quickly. She watched as Clara grabbed 2 shovels and began digging, her determination palpable even through her fear. "Together," Emily shouted. The word echoed back to her, reinforcing unity against the shadow of despair. The first pieces of debris lifted easily, revealing more shattered wood and bricks. Adrenaline pushed them forward, the gravity of the situation unwilling to weigh them down too heavily. Every shove of the shovel was a battle cry for Maureen's son, for every other soul who needed saving. Then came another scream, but this one was different. A flicker of realization widened Emily's eyes as she spun towards the sound. It wasn't coming from the crowd, it was from inside the rubble. "Over here," Gabriel shouted suddenly, his voice unwavering. "I think I heard him." A shot of adrenaline surged through Emily. Would they finally find him? An overwhelming sense of urgency washed over her. Would they find him alive? In that moment, hope and dread swirled, an emotional cyclone that pushed them hard. With renewed intensity, they turned back to the wreckage, hands moving quicker than thought. But just as they felt they were making headway, the ground beneath them shuddered ominously. Thin cracks spiderwebbed through the remaining structure around them. Everyone stepped back. Someone yelled. Emily froze, a sense of foreboding curling in her stomach. Could they lose everything? Even this tenuous glimmer of hope? The inevitable crash of shifting debris drew nearer. They had to act quickly. Her heart thudded in rhythm with the terror sweeping through the air. Her next decision could change everything. Would she risk it all? And then, with a loud rumble, the ground trembled again, making her body seize with fear. What would happen next? As the ground shook violently beneath their feet, Emily felt as if the world had dropped away, leaving just her and the crashing sounds of the collapsing mill. The dust swirled around them like a ghost, amplifying the rising panic in her chest. "Step back, everyone now," Gabriel shouted, urgency pouring from him like molten steel. Emily grabbed his arm, her heart racing. What if he is in there? What if we know? We can't risk it. He cut her off, his eyes fierce and resolute. For a moment, she hesitated, looking back at the rubble where the boy's voice had cried out. Hope battled against a monstrous wave of fear. Would they lose not just him, but themselves in trying to save him? But then, with the echo of Maureen's sobs piercing through the chaos, resolution flared within her. If we don't do this now, We may lose him forever, she said, her voice stronger than she felt inside. She slid her grip down to Gabriel's wrist, valuing his steady presence. We have to move fast, but we have to be smart. Gabriel nodded, understanding. Okay, we can work together. We need to brace the area around us. We can do this. He moved purposefully to the edge of the wreckage, where a heavy beam lay precariously tilted. Emily grabbed a handful of nearby ropes, and together, they secured the structure, working alongside others who had formed a makeshift support team. Can someone check over there? Came a voice from the crowd as people pushed closer, their faces engraved with worry and determination. My brother's in there, someone shouted, glancing between the rubble and his friends. We've got to get him out. And Maureen. Emily caught the spirit of those words. Anger and desperation for their loved ones hung thick in the air. Together, they began lifting the debris, a swarm of bodies moving as one, a gritty determination binding them. Each shovelful tossed aside felt like a tick of a clock, echoing hope and despair simultaneously. As the very foundation of the mill trembled around them, Emily felt the weight of her own heartbeat, the raw pulse of her ever-looming fear. With every piece they lifted, someone cried out shouts of recognition, gasps of disbelief, and the sharp sting of sorrow. Hope flickered and dimmed like a candle fighting against the wind. When another voice shattered the darkness, a high-pitched call, it broke Emily's heart open wide. Help! Help me! Did you hear that? Gabriel's eyes radiated with urgency. It's him. It's gotta be. And just like that, the world spun back into clarity. Emily was on her feet, muscles straining as she dove into the growing pile, chasing that thin whisper of hope. Hang on. We're coming for you, Clara shouted, her face smeared with dirt, yet somehow glowing with fierce determination. The response was a cacophony of voices, rallying echoes of solidarity filled their ranks. They pushed harder, fighting against panic to reclaim what hope remained. Think of Maureen. Think of him. Someone yelled, and the team moved faster, no longer a collection of individuals, but a united force, willed to save one life among many. But just as they glimpsed a small arm reaching out through a space, the ground beneath them rumbled one final time. Get back! Emily screamed as the earth groaned, cracks widening into crevices. She and Gabriel barely escaped as a snap of timber fell nearby, sending shards of wood scattering like arrows. The breath was knocked out of Emily's lungs as she stumbled back, vision blurring. Her heart dropped. No, shadows loomed further away, her desperation pooling hot in her throat. We were so close. With hope spiraling into darkness, she felt her hands quake, holding the shreds of courage against her surging fear. They had to keep trying. For Maureen. For everyone. For that precious boy who still cried out from beneath the rubble. And yet, like a cruel twist of fate, another thunderous sound echoed from within the wreckage. Was it too late? Could the ground swallow them all whole? The weight of that fear gripped her as each moment pulled them closer to a devastating truth. What if they weren't fast enough? Emily's heart raced as she watched the dust settle around the remains of the mill, thick and suffocating. Panic etched deep lines on the faces of those around her, the collective tension palpable. Every second that slipped away felt like a countdown to doom, each tick a reminder of the boy's vulnerable cries echoing somewhere beneath the rubble. Keep going, Gabriel shouted, his voice breaking through the heavy silence that had fallen over the crowd. We can't stop now. Think of him. With a renewed surge of energy, Emily moved back to the pile, her fingers trembling as she brushed aside fallen beams and twisted metal. The remnants of what once was loomed heavily over her, an avalanche of despair and solid reality. She shoved aside the weight with all her might, her determination growing roots as fear pounded in her chest. Here, someone shouted from behind them. I need more help over here. Emily turned to see Clara pull at a large piece of wood, desperation etched into her features. She rushed to her side, feeling their breath mingle in the air, both of them a little breathless but undeterred. We're going to get him out, Emily said, her voice steady even as her insides churned. We just have to believe. Each lift of the debris sent dust swirling, coating their skin, filling their lungs with grit. But it also filled their hearts with courage. They weren't alone. The crowd had grown into a battalion, a collective spirit ignited by fear but fueled by purpose. Suddenly, a loud crack cut through the din, sending everyone into a frenzy. Emily froze, her heart racing again as another tremor shook the earth. "Stay together," Gabriel called, voices rising with fear. "Don't let them scatter." Emily caught a glimpse of Maureen, who clung to the arm of a friend, her face streaked with tears. The sight tore at Emily's heart, amplifying her resolve. They couldn't let Maureen suffer this loss. They couldn't fail her. A spark of hope flickered in Emily's chest. "I can hear you. Keep talking. We're almost there," she called into the rubble. The quiet became a different form of anxiety. Did the boy know they were trying to help? "I can't move. There's nothing. I can't breathe." His voice, muffled but unmistakable, ignited something deep within her. "Just hold on," Clara responded, voice breaking. They were all fighting for him, for each other, for the community that pulsed around them like a heart. "More hands. We need more people here." Gabriel's shout rallied the onlookers, pulling them from their frozen states into action. With every piece of wreckage they moved, Emily felt an unyielding connection forming an invisible thread binding them in shared purpose. They were all here for one another, and beneath the rubble lay more than wood and dust. It was hope, the thread that united them all. Finally, they unearthed a larger piece, revealing a narrow space. Emily and Clara exchanged a look. Was this it? They steadied themselves, harnessing their breath and the collective heartbeat of everyone standing there. Shouts of encouragement blended together into a resonant hum of camaraderie. "On three, lift. 1, 2, 3. As they hoisted the debris with all their strength, Emily's blood roared in her ears. It felt like an eternity, the air thick with anticipation as they revealed a shadow, the boy's small form barely visible, bloodied but alive. "Gotcha!" Emily gasped and reached out. Relief washed over her like a wave, but the danger still loomed. Would the earth shift again? Would they be too late? "Don't let go," she shouted, reaching further into the darkness, her fingers inching closer to the boy's hand, feeling the warmth of his tiny palm despite the coolness of reality. But just as they thought they could pull him free, another loud rumble echoed, deeper than before. This time, the sound came from the very ground they stood upon, a warning, a tremor larger than any before. "Everyone back? Move!" Gabriel yelled. And suddenly Emily was torn from her focus, panic flooding her system. Was this it? Would they lose everything they had fought for? The weight of uncertainty pressed down hard as they barely managed to shout and scramble away from whatever was now unavoidable. Was what they had just unearthed worth the risk of losing it all in the end? Emily's heart thudded, teetering on the precipice of hope and despair. In that tense moment, she could only think one thing. Could they really save him before it was too late? The dust hung heavy in the air, settling like a dark fog over Cedar Grove. Emily staggered back, the ground quaking beneath her. She didn't have time to think. Her heart pounded as she spun around, adrenaline coursing through her. "Everyone, we need to brace for impact," she shouted, the urgency in her voice cutting through the chaos. Gabriel was by her side, shouting instructions to others. Clara moved to the front, coordinating the team as they worked frantically to stabilize the surrounding debris. Emily glanced back, her breath hitching as she caught sight of the boy's outstretched hand, barely visible amongst the wreckage. It was a lifeline in the storm. "Hold on," Emily cried, forcing her weary body to push forward once more. They could not let this slide back into despair. "You can do it, just a little longer." Encouragement surged through her, mingling with fear, but ultimately overriding it. She reached for the boy's hand, desperately trying to close the distance. With a united effort, the crowd began to lift again. Fear transformed into collective strength. The tremors shook the ground, but hope gripped them like an unbreakable clasp. Emily's heart raced as time seemed to stretch, turning each moment into an eternity. Would they succeed? Suddenly, a cry echoed, fear and determination mixing in the air. Another loud crash, even louder than the last. Gabriel caught Emily just in time as the ground gave way, shifting precariously. "We're too close. Everyone back," he shouted, pushing through the chaos, urgency blazing in his eyes. "No," Emily protested, feeling her teeth grit against the fear slithering back. "We can't abandon him." She felt the weight of the town on her shoulders, every fear, every story, every life that was now intertwined in this shared moment of desperation. With renewed courage, Clara stepped forward, leaning into the crowd. "We won't abandon him. We'll do this together. We're stronger as one." Her voice rang out, spreading like wildfire, igniting the willingness to fight. Emily felt the familiar warmth of hope wrapping around her, the same warmth she had felt in the Duke's gaze when he had offered her his arm. They were in this together, and she wasn't about to give up now. "Lift on 3, she called out. The crowd responded, aligning, pushing with one heart, one mission to as they heaved. The boy's head popped into view, dirt smeared across his face. "Help!" he cried again, and the sound pulled on Emily's heart like a lifeline. "Almost there," she yelled, forcing her own fears aside and doubling down on strength that felt drawn from the very fabric of her community. "Don't let go." With efforts reaching a fever pitch, they lifted the last remaining piece of debris, and the boy tumbled free into the arms of a waiting group. Relief flooded Emily, nearly overwhelming her as cheers broke out, but there was no time to let it settle. "Maureen!" Clara yelled as she dashed toward the mother, already moving to secure her son in a protective embrace. And just then, the heat of the moment shifted, filling the air with overwhelming emotion. "We did it!" Gabriel shouted, joy mingling with disbelief, and Emily could hardly believe it. But just then, another tremor shook the ground, a deeper roar of chaos that made the crowd gasp. Fear glimmered in the eyes of those around her, uncertainty creeping back into the chill. "Everyone, move back to safety," Emily called, anxiety weaving through her veins. But even as she urged the crowd, she felt something shift in her heart. The past couldn't dictate their future any longer. The work had begun, and they had to hold on to that momentum, hold on to the people who mattered. Just when it seemed they might lose it all, Emily dug deep, willing her resolve to guide the shift in the air. "We did this together. We can rebuild. We are not defined by broken things." Her voice rose above the chaos, wrapping around them like an anchor in the storm. Gabriel turned toward her, eyes wide with conviction. Behind them, the boy's laughter filled the air, a hopeful sound that rippled through the crowd. "Let us not stop." Emily rallied them, the fight in her fueled by fresh hope. "We can be stronger together. Let's South make Cedar Grove a place of healing, a community that cares for each other." A chorus of voices erupted in agreement, the collective determination filling the air like the pierce of light breaking through dark clouds. As debris continued to tremble, Emily felt the shadows of doubt fade further into the distance. "We can do this," she shouted, and the townspeople surged forward as one. In that moment, standing shoulder to shoulder, they began to rebuild not only what was lost, but also what could be a future written with unity, compassion, and a shared commitment to rise together, knowing love was worth every challenge. Emily smiled through the tears, feeling renewed, and she faced her friends, her community, and the glimmering possibility that lay just ahead. Love had its way of finding the cracks, and together they were building something brighter. Together, she whispered to herself, her heart now full. They were ready to face whatever came next. "Now, it's your turn to join this journey. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love for these transformations. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this connection. This is the moment to show your support, because only true fans understand the importance of growing this community through your actions.